With the release of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered, fans have been asking the big question. What's new? What does this game have to offer that the original couldn't? Well, the most obvious updates are to the game's graphics, UI, gameplay mechanics like fighting and movement, as well as the new voiceovers. Is that enough though? Are all those new features a good justification for buying the game? Well, one thing fans were hoping would be included in that list is cut content. Ideally, some of the original version's missing and abandoned quests could have been revived, reworked, and brought into the remake. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. It's not to say it'll never happen though. In fact, I think there's a decent chance it could. Bethesda and Virtuous would be smart to add more content to this game in order to prolong its relevance. Instead though, we got something else. The deluxe edition of the remaster comes with several things, and among them are two new quote-unquote questlines. One pertains to the Mythic Dawn, and the other pertains to the Order. These brand new adventures allow the player to embark on a righteous path as well as a wicked one. At the very end of each quest, you're rewarded with a whole new arsenal of weapons, as well as complete new sets of armor. This also includes the fan favorite, horse armor. In today's video, I'd like to go over both questlines, adventure through the updated dungeons, take a look at the new gear, talk about some of the lore, and finally, discuss whether or not the price point for Deluxe is worth it. Before getting started, I'd love to know down below if you have the Deluxe Edition and what your thoughts are on it. Let's begin with the more moral quests. These are the ones that reward you with the Akatosh gear. Both add-ons can actually be started right after the player leaves the Imperial Prison Sewer. Heading on over to a major city and asking around for rumors, you might be told this one.
What is it, sir? An old priest in Kvatch is worried about strange disappearances. He sounded quite depressed. How can we win if even the priests lose their faith?
At the moment, I'm unsure if NPCs voiced by the original actors can tell you the new rumors. I'd be surprised if they could, as for both quests, I ended up receiving the rumor from one of the new voice actors. In any case, this starts the brand new mission, A Wound in Time. This comes with all new journal entries as well as quest logos. Personally, I was pretty thrilled to see this. Something original and unique to the remake. A Wound in Time leads the player over to the outskirts of Kvatch. What's nice is that no progression needs to be made in terms of the main questline. The old priest, Ilav Jolgoner, can be found standing on the road that leads up to the Charred City.
Hope is gone. The Imperial line is dead. The Covenant is broken. The enemy has won. The Divines are powerless to stop all these threats. Even as we speak, people are disappearing near Anvil, and I foresee a terrible threat. One even the gods should fear. You are a noble soul and a follower of the Nine. I am more than a humble priest and represent an order that stood for Akatosh for centuries. I feel these disappearances are an insult to Akatosh's commands. Will you investigate the ruins of Beldeburo and help us?
Beldeburo is an Ayleid ruin located by the coast of the Abyssian Sea. If you're like me and don't have very many places discovered yet, a fast travel over to Anvil and a quick run northwest gets you there in no time. For my playthrough, the exterior was guarded by a singular stunted scamp. Now, if you're new to Oblivion, you may not know that enemies scale with your overall level. The easiest time you're going to have with combat is at level 1. So, my dungeon experience in Beldeburo is likely going to differ from yours. Heading on inside, the first zone has you facing off against undead enemies like zombies and skeletons. If you have fire spells or enchantments, those will help you out greatly. Located around the ruin are going to be a variety of Ayleid casks. As a veteran of the game, I'm ashamed to admit that I never really bother looting these things. For what's to come at the end though, I highly recommend acquiring as much wealth as possible, whether that's from Varla stones, Welkin stones, or general loot. On the subject of seasoned Elder Scrolls players, there's a chance that you might have been tipped off as to what's going on here. Disappearances, undead, and a great evil. Furthermore, towards the end of the first zone, you'll come across a small encampment, alchemy supplies, and soul gems. Once you've reached the end of the line, you'll be stopped at a unique looking door. The game notifies you that there's a powerful enchantment that's keeping anything from going in or coming out. At this point, you can exit Beldeburo, fast travel to the outskirts of Kvatch, and inform Ilav of your findings.
Why have our gods forsaken us? By Akatosh's grace, what you describe is a time wound. A few years ago, an Elder Scroll was stolen from my order. Only this relic would be powerful enough to pervert the laws of Mundus to this extent. You must retrieve it at all costs, hero. The time wound has not fully opened yet. I will give you the Order's blessing. This should allow you to breach the barrier, but the rest is up to you. Be wary, hero. Whoever is behind this will be a force to be reckoned with.
Jolgondr gives you an incredibly tall task, retrieving an Elder Scroll, one of the most sacred artifacts in the entire Elder Scrolls universe. It's at this point too that the quest, A Time Wound, ends and a new one, Saving Time itself, begins. I tried looking through the menu to see if I could spot Ilov's Blessing anywhere. I wanted to see if there was more to it than just a glorified key. I unfortunately didn't see anything under active effects or in the other magical tabs, so I believe that's all it is. Returning to Beldaburo and going through the enchanted door, the quest marker disappears and the rest is up to you. The dungeon crawl has you facing off against more undead foes. In one of the middle sections of the zone, you'll spot another workstation. This one shows off a flaming corpse, a rotten body, more tools for alchemy, and more soul gems. Continuing past that area, down some stairs, and through some corridors, you'll finally arrive at the point of interest. A big chamber that features the Netherlich, Corleon. The center of the room has an ethereal light shining down, clearly a demonstration of Corleon's powers. From my experience, the Lich mostly fought with shock spells, summoned a zombie once, and attempted to flee when I'd get in close. After defeating it in battle, you can loot its corpse to receive the Elder Scroll, a key to Beldaburo, as well as Corleon's diary. The diary reads as follows. Entry 650. That was excruciating. Passing one's soul through a phylactery is definitely unpleasant, but the pain is now a distant memory, as were most of the other basic mortal needs and senses. I am so much more now, so powerful. The fools that believe themselves powerful have no idea the magnitude of the spells I can now use. Destruction being as natural for me as breathing was back then, I will focus on unraveling the mysteries of illusion and alteration. An eternity of power awaits me. Mundus will be mine for the taking. Entry 900. I have never felt better. Felt? Maybe the term is wrong for a being such as myself. Maybe I should find new words to better describe my state of existence. I wonder how the divines think about themselves. They are the closest thing to me after all. I'm having trouble finding enough test subjects for my different spells, and apparently the authorities have been warned something is going on. Time for me to move to another place. Entry 1200. Beldaburo is our new base of operation. Our genius shown again while traveling there. Why bother ourselves with kidnapping people? On the road, I found several apprentices that dabble in the necromancy and that dream to reach the same state I am, one day. No, we won't allow it. Of course not. But they are so useful and eager. I sometimes wonder if I was as naive when I can't remember what I was. How weird. But then again, we know so many things now. It is expected to forget minor things. Entry 1300. Something is wrong. I feel my mind drifting. One of the dear minions dared question me today after we spent a few hours looking toward the phylactery. Their skeleton isn't so talkative anymore, are they? Though I do wonder. I have been losing track of my thoughts lately. Then again, we have the mind of a divine. Is it not normal for mere mortals to wonder at our concentration? Entry 1500. This is bad. I must focus to remind myself of my name, of what I am. I left Beldaburo to look for another Lich. The one I found was raving mad. Is it inevitable? I disposed of the poor thing, granting them a swift rest. I must find something. Eternity being crazy wasn't my plan, and we will find a way to restore my sanity. Entry 1550. There is no cure. There is no cure. There is no cure. Think, I must think. Magic is now my friendly pet. There must be something that can be done. I will research other forms of lichdom, other ways to stay myself. Entry 1650. I found a solution. Lichdom isn't the answer. Parting from one's soul has definitive side effects. So we found it. An idea. The small minds of the Order of the Hour will probably know how to break the rules of their patron. I will raid their precious enclave they think is hidden and find how to open a portal to the past. Entry 1700. I have found something. They kept an Elder Scrolls, that's literally how it's written, in their basement. Reading it was difficult, even for someone such as us. We will go back through time and prevent myself from becoming mad. Other forms of ascension are possible. I'm certain of it. We will be eternal. If you really wanted to take a look at the Elder Scroll, you're more than welcome to, but it won't really make any sense. With the objective complete, the player can finish looting the dungeon, and then they can return to Ilov.
I felt it. The flow of time is now once more in accordance with Akatosh's rules. This is truly a heroic feat, and I feel that, with your help, we might prevail against the enemy. You are a true champion to the Nines, and you shall be rewarded. You are hereby made a Paladin of the Hour, and shall receive weapons and gear befitting the hero of Akatosh. Do you want another treasure blessed by Akatosh? What do you want?
From here, it's time to reap the rewards. By selecting the equipment prompt, Dragonr offers you a wide array of weapons and armors to pick from. Under the weapons category, you can choose from blade, blunt, and bow options. Then, from blade and blunt, you can pick a specific type of weapon. Longsword, short sword, dagger, mace, warhammer, battle axe, you name it. What's more, you can ask for all of them. Every single order weapon. The same goes for the armor options. You can pick light or heavy and ask for all of the gear. To top it all off, Ilov's equipment supply is endless, meaning you can come back whenever, stock up on brand new types of weapons, enchant them, and repeat the process. Now, while I'm only receiving the level 1 gear here, I'm more than certain that the order weapons and armor scale with your character, meaning that at low levels, they're slightly better than their steel and mithril counterparts, and at higher levels, they rival Daedric and Glass creations. There are slight differences between the light and heavy armor variations. Heavy puts more emphasis on a bulkier look, i.e. broader shoulder pauldrons and thicker gauntlets. Meanwhile, light makes for a more mobile and agile look. I personally prefer the heavy armor appearance, but that's just me. The next order of business is inspecting all of the new weapons. They all have the same sort of aesthetic to them, a silver base with gold accents. Some contain more dragon-like features, while others have a more royal look to them. If anything, it feels like a slight reskin of the Imperial Dragon armor. Nevertheless, it still looks really nice and rivals the appearance of some of the game's more interesting pieces. The last order of business is, of course, the horse armor. How could one possibly forget that? Before, I said you're going to need to acquire some gold. The reason for that is you might want to buy yourself a decent horse. Not all horses are built the same in Oblivion, as some breeds are faster than others. If you don't want to splurge on one right now though, and don't have access to Shadowmere, there's no need to fret. Snakrabura, the stable hand at Chestnut Handy Stables, offers a free horse, Old Nag, as part of the horse armor expansion. After mounting the horse at least once, Snack can be asked to outfit your steed with the order armor. Surprise, surprise, it looks the exact same as yours, but honestly, your character now comes across as a force to be reckoned with. As per usual, the horse armor buffs up your horse's health by double the amount with a cap of 750. With the Order of the Hour's questline all wrapped up, let's switch gears over to the more sinister side. As discussed in the beginning, this quest is also initiated by asking around for rumors.
What do you need? The Mythic Dawn have been leaving notes in Talos Plaza. I hope no one believes their lies.
Already, this quest starts off differently from the last, which is refreshing to see. Upon traveling over to the Talos Plaza district, the quest marker will point you towards the center statue. Just in front of the dragon, facing the western side, is a barrel with the first Mythic Dawn pamphlet attached to it. Picking it up, it reads, "You walk the path of the new dawn. You would destroy the Septim spawns. Liberated from your chains, follow us to herald his reign. The first you hold within your hands, on to the next one we command. Wolf's father, Lord of the Hunt, our Lord's dominion he'd confront. His wolf's gaze you will follow, behind a tree the next will be." Now, the journal update pretty much spoils the riddle, but while you were reading it, you might have thought about the Daedric prince, Hircine, the Lord of the Hunt. It mentions to follow his wolf's gaze. The only real place of worship for Hircine is his shrine out in the Great Forest. It's directly south of the Imperial City and won't take you very long to reach by horseback. Upon arrival, the journal update gives away the rest of the mystery, but yes, by walking in the direction the wolf statue is looking in, you'll find the second Mythic Dawn pamphlet. This one reads, "You walk the path of the new dawn, the gods you would have bygone. A new step toward salvation, let you fall toward temptation. From here, the third you will seek, the fool, the vain, he who is weak, wishing to slave the weak souls, the horned fiend shrine is thy goal. Contemplate the fake prince, march then toward the light of dawn." Now, the journal tells you to adventure out to Molag Bal's shrine, as he's the horned fiend. I'll give the game credit this one time, since I had never heard someone talk like that about Molag Bal, and assumed the pamphlet was referring to Clavicus Vile. He comes to mind when I think of a foolish Daedric prince. As for the horned fiend part, I thought it was referring to the Daedric artifact, the mask. In any case, Bal's shrine is also located in the Great Forest, just on the western end. Without any nearby fast travel locations, it's a decent ride from Hircine's shrine. Upon arrival, the game's hint is a little vaguer this time, telling you to simply follow the light of the dawn. My first assumption was that something was going to be revealed between 6 and 8 AM. This wasn't the case though, and after thinking a little harder on it, I had my eureka moment. Lined up directly on the eastern side of Molag Bal's statue was the third Mythic Dawn pamphlet. This one reads, "You walk the path of the new dawn. On the world's truth the light shine on. His might forever unrivaled, his enemies to dust crumbled. So close to greatness you are, the end of the path is not far. Where the Larceus meets the bay, in a city full of decay, praying for luck to a statue, the old lady holds the last clue." This time, the journal update doesn't really give anything away. At first, when I heard Decayed City, I thought for sure it meant Kavach. But then, thinking about where the lucky old lady statue is, I realized that even the game developers are bashing the wonderful city of Breville. Fast traveling over, the statue in question is directly across from the chapel. Upon getting close, the game notifies you that the fourth note should be nearby. This one was on me, but I assumed the green marker was just pointing to the statue and that the note was hidden in the area. I looked all around the nearby buildings and interacted with the lucky old lady multiple times. Finally, I paid attention to where the icon was actually directing me to, and inside the base of the statue, I found the final note. This one reads, "You walk the path of the new dawn. Lord Dagon welcomes you on. A scheme within a scheme, another way to reach the dream. Your sister in faith thou shalt find, the shy Dunmer we now design. Familiar with the burning fire, she will guide you to the pyre. Bring us to her to be blessed, rejoice in succeeding our test." From here, you're directed over to one of the nearby inns. Once inside the Lonely Suitor Lodge, you can ask the proprietor, Bogrum Grogalash, about a shy Dunmer.
A shy Dunmer? Could it be Ranaline that you're looking for?
Ranaline should be nearby, and you can now speak with her.
Ranaline, I cook at the Lonely Suitor. You found the notes, you share our vision. But I did not survive this long by being trusting.
This response means that her disposition needs to be raised in order to get more information. This could be done via the persuasion minigame, a charm spell, or good old-fashioned bribery. Either way, when her disposition is high enough, in my case 60 worked, she could be asked again about the pamphlets.
You found the notes. You follow the will of the Lord of Change. You are the last that was needed. Go to Mingo Cave, dressed as one of us, and revel in the fire.
This is where the quest, Burning Trail, ends, and the Crimson Cave begins. Now, original Oblivion players will note that Ranaline used to be a high elf. It's interesting to see their approach for adding new quests into this game. Likely because the developers couldn't record new lines with the original voice actors, they changed the character to a race that needed new voiceovers anyways. I think for the odd character here and there, the ones that aren't relevant to any plots at all, the change is fine. It's what we first saw with Ilov, and now we're seeing it with Ranaline. It's how Virtuous could bring us the cut content, but it's not something they should tamper with too much. I'd rather see new characters with new stories than the developers alter too much of the original game. Otherwise, it loses that original foundation that we all know and love. In any case, Mingo Cave is a brief walk south-southwest from Hircine's shrine. There isn't much in the way of resistance for the exterior, other than some imps. Once your Mythic Dawn robe and hood have been equipped, you can enter on inside. Located throughout the caverns are several Mythic Dawn agents. They don't have much to offer though in terms of dialogue.
We are blessed by an envoy of Lord Dagon.
May the Sovereign of Destruction be with you.
Scattered around the small dungeon are a variety of containers and chests that you can loot. Again, these can be sold to pay for a better horse for the upcoming horse armor portion. Eventually, you'll enter a bigger chamber and note that it's used for torture and sacrifice. Standing at the back of the room are two agents, as well as a unique looking NPC.
Come, mortal. Our prince's power is close. Bow to the will of Mehrunes Dagon, and take this puny imperial life to assert your hatred of the Septims.
Burn him! Light the pyre!
At this point, in the name of new gear and to prove you're a member of the cult, you're forced to light the pyre underneath the prisoner. With the deed done, you can speak again with Mehrunes Harbinger.
You have greatly pleased my lord. You will act as a herald of his coming and wear his attire. The Sovereign of Destruction offers you equipment befitting someone as bloodthirsty as yourself. Crafting it is beyond mortal abilities, hence you'll need to summon me whenever you need a new one.
From here, feel free to explore the rest of the cave, albeit there isn't much left.
I do not.
Once you're ready, you can summon the Daedra in order to complete the quest. In the exact same manner with Ilav Dragalner, you can request all of the Cataclysm weapons from the Harbinger, as well as the armor pieces as many times as you'd like. Heavy, light, blade, blunt, and bows. What's different with the Harbinger, and perhaps more convenient, is that your only means of contact is through summoning, meaning you can get a replacement anytime, anywhere. With Dragalner, you have to go and seek him out at the base of Kavach. Not as convenient, but still not bad at all. First, let's take a look at the Cataclysm armor. It reminds me of something, I just can't quite place it. They were definitely on the nose with the aesthetic choice for this one. The red base with the worn out looking metal top. Similar to the Order armor, the heavy style expresses a bulkier look, while the lighter build comes across as more agile. Again, I like the heavy aesthetic more than the lighter one, but I think overall, I find the Order armor to be more appealing than the Cataclysm set. It still looks nice, but certain aspects feel a little awkward to me, namely the cuirass. Now, let's take a look at all of the Cataclysm weapons. My statement still stands that the gear levels with the player and will increase with your stats. Remember before when I mentioned that the Order armor reminded me of Imperial Dragon armor? Well, this time, I feel as though the Cataclysm weapons look like Daedric weapons. They have an identical color scheme and the same style of details, i.e. engravings and spiked edges. Now, that's not to discredit them in any way. In fact, I prefer the look of the Cataclysm blades and bows over their Order counterparts. I just can't help but wonder if maybe too much inspiration was taken from pre-existing assets. After all, this is supposed to be brand new content, and with certain items, it comes across more as a reskin. In any case, the last order of affairs is of course the horse armor. Exactly like before, all the player needs to do is own a horse and ask Snakrabura to outfit it with the Cataclysm armor. I think the aesthetic on the steed looks amazing, it offers just as much protection as the other options, and again, goes incredibly well with the player's gear. So that wraps up both A Wound in Time as well as Burning Trail. Now, let's talk a little bit about them. Admittedly, I'm a little hesitant to ponder on the finer details of these quests. I can't help but wonder if they were solely added in order to deliver the weapons to the player. Of course, that sounds obvious. But what I mean is that I'm curious if not much thought or detail was put into their stories and lore because the ends justify the means. Here's new gear wrapped up in a pretty bow, don't ask any questions. Of course, you can't always think like that though, life is a lot more dull with a pessimistic outlook, so let's begin with the Time Wound. I'm pretty sure my theory is correct in that you can't receive this quest from any of the original voice actors. Given every single NPC who gave me information was voiced by a new actor, I'm sold on that idea. Like I said, it's Virtuous and Bethesda's best avenue for creating more content and even possibly delivering us the desired cut content. Here's to hoping for the City of Such. Other than story-based elements, I wouldn't say any of what Drogoner says is super ear-perking. Really, the only thing of note is that he brings up his quote-unquote order, an order that serves the divine Akatosh. Through Corleone's note, we learn that this is actually the Order of the Hour. Now, if you're like me, you've probably never heard of them. They actually have a decent role during the events of ESO. The UESP has a very detailed article on the Order itself, but the TLDR is that they carry out the will of Akatosh. Sometimes this results in good deeds, and other times selfish ones. For them, the ends really justify the means, and they'll do whatever they can to honor Akatosh's law. To my knowledge, during this time period, the Order doesn't have a very strong presence. After all, if they did, we would have seen more of them in the original game. To me, Ilov seems like a priest who's upholding the traditional values of the Order. I feel like he's in over his head though, and can't see the bigger picture. However, it does seem like Oblivion is pushing the more righteous narrative for the Order. I'd be really interested to see how this Elder Scroll that was located in a basement in Kvatch could have changed Oblivion's main storyline. After all, the Elder Scroll impacts time itself, so maybe it could have been used to save the Septum Line and eradicate the Mythic Dawn. Let's continue on and move over to the ruins of Beldaburo. We can see that the developers chose to place these quests in previously irrelevant dungeons. Again, similar to the voice actor NPC dilemma, this makes sense for the short term, but I don't think it's something they can do for the long term. For a remake, you really can't replace too much of the original's bones, or else it becomes something else entirely. Beldaburo was originally a Conjurer/Daedric dungeon, and that's why the exterior had a scamp, while the interior held undead. Corleone, the Lich we come across, is an entirely new character. He's not in the original game or even mentioned at all. So that makes Corleone and the Harbinger the first NPCs who are totally novel to the remake. We know through several texts that becoming a Lich is the Necromancer's equivalent to achieving enlightenment. It's the ultimate end goal. We also know that it involves separating one's soul from their body. The soul, or their essence, is then often placed in an object. In this case, my guess is that Corleone's was put into one of those Welkin stones that was shrouded in the light when you first encountered him. In case you weren't aware either, the process of achieving lichdom involves sacrificing a lot of other people's souls. That's why there were disappearances near Anvil, which then urged Ilov to get involved. Before moving on, I quickly wanted to touch on the final boss fight. It was noticeably easier than fighting a Lich in the original game. Say for example, Lorgren Benorus, one of the other Liches you can easily find at level 1. Its attacks were easier to dodge, its health went down pretty fast, and it kept fleeing the fight. It still dealt decent damage to me, so that was good to see, but in terms of combat difficulty and the difference between the OG and the remake, I feel like it shines here. Now, there isn't much new info that comes from Corleone's diary. Again, probably the most interesting thing here is the mention of the Elder Scroll. Corleone broke into the Order's base of operations and found the ancient relic in their basement. Definitely not top-notch security there. But of course, stealing and using it allowed the Lich to open a time wound and start the process of traveling back in time. Definitely an incredibly powerful ability, and as I said before, one that if it were in the base game, lore-wise, 100% could have been used to prevent the Oblivion crisis. What's more, at the end of the quest, you simply hand it back to Ilov and it's never seen or touched upon again. To wrap up A Wound in Time, I just want to say I find it really interesting that Virtuous and Bethesda decided to involve an Elder Scroll here in general. In original Oblivion, there's only ever one Elder Scroll you interact with, and that's at the end of the Thieves Guild questline. A long and perilous journey with plenty of build-up. Here, you're thrown into the game, defeat some undead, and retrieve a scroll within 10 or so minutes. It feels like the Elder Scrolls should have had a bigger impact on the surrounding world, and instead it's just in the form of a fetch quest. I almost wonder if the developers added it in for the wow factor, but that's something we'll never know. Let's now flip the script to Burning Trail. I actually really enjoyed the riddle-based scavenger hunt concept. In the beginning, the game was just giving you the answers, so that was unfortunate, but it staved off a bit toward the latter pamphlets. While I did like searching for the notes, that's unfortunately a quest you have fun with once, and after that, you know all the answers and it just becomes tedious. From the Imperial City, to the shrines, then to Reville, all just to meet up with Ranaline. Now, I'd be interested to know if you can stroll into Mingo Cave without having found the pamphlets. Will the quest stage skip ahead, allowing you to sacrifice the guard and receive the summon? It's something worth testing out. Something I didn't really touch on before was the alternative route in Mingo Cave. By not going in with the Mythic Dawn robes on, the cult becomes hostile towards you and begins attacking. This allows you to cut your way through the Mythic Dawn, and believe it or not, in the end, the Harbinger will still reward you for weeding out the weak members. Either method works, it just depends on the playstyle you're going for. In terms of lore and background, I feel as though Burning Trail is pretty straightforward. Infiltrate the Mythic Dawn, kill an innocent man, or eliminate the cultists, receive rewards. None of the NPCs, or even the notes really, offer any thought-provoking questions, at least to me. I will say though, with the addition of the Mythic Dawn pamphlets, Ranaline's Allegiance, and Mingo Cave, it does show that the cult's presence in Cyrodiil is much larger than we initially thought. In the original game, we really only see the cultists at Mehrunes Shrine, the tutorial area, Mankar Cameron's Paradise, and as sleeper agents. The Harbinger and the cultists really put into perspective just how widespread the cult is throughout Cyrodiil. I already mentioned Ranaline and how they completely reworked her character in order to be able to deliver this quest. I'd just like to emphasize how interesting of a choice this was. With Ilev Dragalner, he was already an Imperial. It wasn't that hard to replace his dialogue with the second actor's voice. Doing so allows for a whole new questline. It's fine to do it maximum a few more times, preferably with NPCs who were already revoiced, but that's it. With Ranaline, she was completely altered to a whole new character. I had to look her up after the fact because I had no clue who she was in the moment. While she was an NPC who offered nothing in terms of story, the developers still have to be very cautious going down this road, if they're going to make more content for the game. I know it's weird to release DLC for Oblivion, considering this is the remake and it's supposed to uphold the original's design, but I think so many fans, including myself, would be more than interested in playing through new stories in Oblivion's universe. Plus, might as well add some longevity to the game. Many people theorize that they're simply going to do a creation club for the game, and that's it. For better or for worse, it could be the case, but time will only tell. Why they couldn't just make the Shy Dunmer an already irrelevant Dark Elf in another city is beyond me. To end the video, let me ask you this question. Do you think paying an extra $10 USD for 2 new quick storylines, some really cool weapons and armor, a digital art book, and the original soundtrack is worth it? I think it's a very subjective answer, and I understand both sides of the argument. I personally think the price point is a little too much for what's offered. I think Oblivion already has some really neat looking gear that could easily rival these weapons and armor pieces. However, it also really excites me to receive brand new content for Oblivion, regardless of how much time you actually spend playing through the new quests. For most people, maybe watching this video was enough for you and you decided you don't need the upgrade. For others, maybe now you really want to get your hands on the new weapons and armor. Maybe you're itching to look through the digital art book, and perhaps you wanted to own the soundtrack. There's a lot of different reasons for making a decision one way or another, and I think the best thing we can all do is accept everyone else's choices. With that being said, let me know down below if you got the add-ons, and let me know which weapon and armor set you like better, the Orders or Cataclysm. Until next time, keep on adventuring.